police officer stops a minor, what documentation is the minor supposed to show the police officer to prove that he or she is a U.S. citizen?
Again, reasonableness is the thing. If there's not a reason to ask, officers aren't going to ask.
Well, let me ask you this. There's a car driving. There's an adult driving it. There are minors in the back seat. Now, the law allows the children to be checked, right?
Well, Mr. Chairman, at a certain age, and I not recalling with the age, at a certain age.
No, there's no age. It just all the children can be checked and should be checked under the law and its regulations. What are the children supposed to show?
Mr. Chairman, if they don't have ID, they're not supposed to show anything. You're not required to have ID, unless you're a driver or, in Arizona, we allow parents to go down and get an Arizona ID at any age if a parent.
So you think under this law, children, to prevent themselves from being sent to a detention center or whatever, would have to carry some kind of ID?
Mr. Chairman, that's not accurate.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, there's a reasonableness again inferred.
I'm just going to submit for the record Section 3B, and it doesn't list any exceptions at all.
We must stand for our families and our communities. We are united against SB 1070 and come election time in November, we will be heard.
My Unitarian Universalist faith says we are all part of one human community, one human family, a part of one great love. And together we can change the systems that are criminalizing our neighbors and our community and are putting us all at risk. It is time to stand together, united against fear, united against racism, united against racial profiling. We can win and we will win, and it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court does in June and the decision they make. We will win because we are on the right side of history. We are on the side of love. We are on the side of human rights and human dignity, and we will stand together.
Although there has been a lot of provisions to SB 1070, today, Section 2B is still alive and thriving. This section gives local police departments and counties across Arizona the liberty to ask suspects about their immigration status in discriminatory ways, and it also allows local police to detain immigrants without causation. And how exactly are police officials determining who to stop and not stop?
This attrition through enforcement scheme has been tried before at the city, county, and state level going back to 2006. What has come from these past attempts? The short answer, nothing good, unless your only goal is to make brown people move.
73% of Arizonans supported SB 1070.
And if Senate Bill 1070 was so popular, why did the sponsor get recalled out of his own legislative district?
If you were speeding down the highway and had your infant in a car seat, in the back seat, and you were pulled over and charged with speeding, should that infant get the ticket too?
Senate Bill 1070 puts that wall right between law enforcement and the Latino community, and particularly with women of domestic violence. Too fearful to go to police to ask for help because of fear of, one, being deported, and even worse, being separated from their kids. This is exactly why Governor Brewer denied the invitation. She can't justify the very bill that she signed.
We know they've come over here to take advantage of our natural resources, and the stories that they tell about finding a better life for themselves or their families, and religious persecution is really just an excuse to come and rape the land. Legal European immigrants, do you have your documentation? Shoot! Roger, we got a couple fleeing. Got a couple illegal European immigrants fleeing. Halt! Stop! They tried to get away. It's really a gray line whether we can shoot them in the back while they're running away. Got a young boy fleeing. Please send, sir.
I felt discriminated upon. Yeah. All these other people can walk by, but since I'm white, I got stopped.
Made me feel pretty bad.
It's maybe the way you're dressed, your anything.
My skin color, how I looked. They could tell I was European.
Kind of sucks, huh?
Yeah.
You are here as immigrants from Australia?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, well, I understand you all stole the land from the Aboriginals in Australia as well, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so we're going to have to detain you guys as well. We'll send you back to Europe. You know, it's whether it's stealing the land in the Americas or stealing the land in Australia, the Europeans, geez, what a brutal group of people. Slavery, genocide, bringing diseases with them, poisoning the rivers. Today's the first step. Step by step, we're trying to reverse things, turn it back around, get these folks back over to Europe, and start righting some of the wrongs of the past.
Yo soy Joaquin, perdido en un mundo de confusión. I am Joaquin, lost in a world of confusion, caught up in the whirl of a gringo society, confused by the rules, scorned by the attitudes, suppressed by manipulation, and destroyed by modern society.
Illegal aliens! Maui, you don't even have any film in there.
Maui don't have a brain in his damn head. He's an idiot. Racist pig.
Deport illegal aliens!
What an asshole. Just a stinking son of a bitch and asshole.
You know, this isn't
Racist.
funny. This really isn't funny. It's our country and our sovereignty. This has nothing to do with you now. It has something to do with losing our country. And we don't want to do that. And you people are destroying it.
Hey, where you from, man?
I'm an undocumented immigrant from Nigeria.
I'm an undocumented immigrant from Brazil.
I'm an undocumented immigrant from Germany.
From Mexico. From Peru.
From Brazil.
From Israel.
From
Armenia.
Ecuador.
Dominican
Republic.
Ecuador.
There is an estimated 11.7 million undocumented immigrants living in the country as of 2013. The biggest and most troubling misconception about these people is that they leech off the country and don't pay taxes. They are pinned as lazy, cowardly people running away from their problems and freeloading off the hardworking American people.
Now, one of the points that people make against undocumented immigrants is, my God, they use all these services like if they are in a car accident and we got to actually treat them so they don't bleed to death. Oh, that's taking up our money, and their kids go to school, that takes up our taxpayer dollars. They're robbing us blind. Here's the only problem with that. They do pay taxes. And someone actually did an analysis of how much taxes that they pay on average. It's of course an estimate, but it's a fairly logical one. It's from the Institute for Taxation and Economic Policy, and they realized, hey, you know what? They pay sales tax like everybody else, because you have to. You know, you go into McDonald's, you go into a store, if there's a sales tax in that state, you're going to pay it. They don't ask you, hey, do you have papers? Oh, you don't have papers, then you don't have to pay the sales tax? No, of course, you pay the sales tax. How much is that? Well, based on their economic status, which they're not rich, on average, they would pay about $8.4 billion in sales tax. They'd pay $1.6 billion in property tax. Now, that's not very much because a lot of them don't own property, but based on the few percent that would and the renters, et cetera, you get $1.6 billion in taxes that way. And then you've got $1.2 billion in personal income taxes they're paying. And so for a total of, actually, an estimate of $11.2 billion in taxes that undocumented immigrants pay to the United States. And by the way, if they have a job through a fake Social Security number, which happens often, they actually pay the payroll tax, but never get it back. They can't collect on that Social Security or Medicare, but they do pay into it their whole lives. So a lot of times they pay taxes for which they never see any return. So in the end, is it a net positive, net negative? That's hard to tell because you don't know how much of the hospitals, the firemen, cops, teachers, et cetera, that they use up. But when you hear that they don't pay any taxes and that they leech off of us, that's actually not true. They pay a lot of taxes.
Although not many undocumented immigrants pay income taxes, those that do are never reimbursed for it. These immigrants pay property and sales taxes just like everyone else. So to say that they are freeloaders leeching off of the American people would be a lie and would do a disservice to these immigrants searching for justice and amnesty within this country.
It is the right thing to do. Excuse me, sir. It's not time for questions, sir. Not while I'm speaking. Precisely because this is temporary, Congress needs to act. There's still time for Congress to pass the DREAM Act this year because these kids deserve to plan their lives in more than 2-year increments. And the answer to your question, sir, and the next time I prefer you let me finish my statements before you ask that question, is this is the right thing to do for the American people. Maybe I didn't ask for an argument. I'm answering your question. It is the right thing to do for the American people, and here's why. Here's the reason. Because these young people are going to make extraordinary contributions and are already making contributions to our society. I've got a young person who is serving in our military, protecting us and our freedom. The notion that in some ways we would treat them as expendable makes no sense. There's a young person here who has grown up here and wants to contribute to this society, wants to maybe start a business that will create jobs for other folks who are looking for work. That's the right thing to do.
On June 15, 2012, President Barack Obama announced that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security would not deport certain undocumented individuals who came to the U.S. as children and would provide them with temporary relief called deferred action. If you are eligible for deferred action, this relief will allow you to temporarily remain in the U.S. without danger of deportation or removal and will allow you to apply for a work permit for the period during which you have deferred action status. Even though the requirements for deferred action look simple, there are still many questions that need answering.